Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach had so much potential that was lost to the decisions made by Steelwool to cut so much content, the game's full release day one being a jumbled up mess of bugs and glitches, underused characters, and it just being overall different. Security Breach could have been good, but then it turned out like this. Cut content is a huge problem since there is way too much cut gameplay and voice lines from the trailer that should have made it into the game, but why didn't it? I have no idea. This part where Vanny is chasing you down a hallway with red lights was not in the full release, and there wasn't even a part in the game where a hallway similar to this, or like the exact hallway, was shown. And the section could potentially have added in some way a lot onto Vanny being an antagonist. This scene is from when you're in the prize counter area and you are in the elevator going down and Vanessa is looking at you. This definitely is a cutscene, and you can argue that this was in the actual game, but it was completely repurposed anyway, because in the actual game, Vanessa catches you and you get teleported to the security office where you find the screwdriver. But here, it's a cutscene of you getting away from her. And still, I would really want to know where you are going, because it's a split path. And you wouldn't always go here guaranteed. So I would have loved to see where you go after you get out of the elevator, since this is the only part of the game where you actually see the prize counter elevator being used. This is the biggest cut part of the game, since it seems like an entire ending, or at least an intro cutscene to a final battle. This part looks so important because it is a really big area of the game, and it's such a giant cutscene to just cut it out like that, with there being no similar cutscene to try to tell what's happening in that scene. Oh, wait, you thought I was done? Well, no. There are a lot of cut voice lines from supposedly important characters that we, never heard in the game.
You will do as I say. You will bring me what I want. And if you fail me, then you will, both of you, burn!
First off, this voice line sounds like Monty, maybe a different voice actor, and swapping voice actors isn't really important, but they still changed Monty, which is, a thing. The important part is when he mentions two characters getting burnt if he doesn't get what he wants. Even if this is Afton controlling Monty, it would make him more of a prominent character, which would be so cool, since he's pretty much absent at the start of the game, only showing up once, then disappearing, and then after you snap him like a Lego, he just turns into a dog and then is just pretty much useless. So it would have been cool to see Monty be the aggressive antagonist.
Gregory, we can get you out of here. You and me together.
Oh boy, Vanessa. Where do I even start from her lines from the trailer? Okay, let me just start off with this. Vanessa was supposed to be a protagonist and a good guy. We hear Vanessa talking to Gregory like she's trying to warn him about the Pizzaplex and trying to help him get out of there. But we never hear it in the game at all. And not to mention that Vanny, Vanessa's alter ego, was supposed to be the antagonist as well. It would have been so cool for her to be the antagonist and the helper character at the same time. Not gonna go too in-depth about these voice lines since there isn't that much content in these lines. But it exists, which is a big problem since these lines were never in the game, and I get that it's just lines from a trailer to pump people up, and it's not really supposed to be in the game, but most people agree that this is supposed to be William Afton speaking to Vanny, and there's two things wrong with that. One is that Vanny and Afton never had any sort of communication with each other throughout the entire game, and two, this isn't even PJ Haywood who voiced Afton in Pizzeria Simulator. It's just disappointing to know that there's an unused William Afton that wasn't even used for Burn Trap and will probably never be used. Also, I'm just going to mention this because I know some of you will argue that this is all a trailer thing, but let me remind you that this is the Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach gameplay trailer from the official PlayStation account. And the cherry on top is the fact that on the first clip it says captured on PS5, mix of gameplay and cinematics shown. And the gameplay and cinematics shown in the trailer was not in the game. The gameplay from the gameplay trailer was not in the game that I played, even though the gameplay trailer showed gameplay that was supposed to be in the game. You can't tell me that's just a trailer thing, when it is literally called the gameplay trailer. The biggest problem is the plot and antagonist, because since the previous game was Help Wanted, you would expect the main antagonist to be Glitch Trap. But no, it's the random security guard just introduced and was supposed to be helping you from what we hear in the trailers. Not having William as the antagonist is already a huge red flag, especially since he was in the game as Burn Trap, but in the non-canon ending? Correct me if I'm wrong here, but every 1 to 2 star ending was a fake ending, and the Afton ending is a 2-star ending. Meanwhile, the Princess Quest Vanny ending is the 3-star ending, which means the canon ending was the Princess Quest ending, or at least the good ending that we're supposed to follow off of. And if the Afton ending is the canon ending, why isn't it the 3-star ending? Like, just take the 3rd star off the Vanny ending and slap it onto the Afton ending. And I really don't have a problem with having a new antagonist, because I really feel a new type of game should have a new type of antagonist. Especially after that perfect pizzeria simulator ending where Afton, got turned into a crispy rabbit. And considering that, I don't think Afton should have returned. I really would have enjoyed seeing Vanny be the main antagonist, but she literally only had like a minute and a half of screen time. Like, I cannot express the amount of questions I have about making Vanny the brand new antagonist and wasting her by not giving her enough screen time and making Afton also an antagonist, so she is swept aside. She had potential to be the next villain of the franchise, but no, she just had to get thrown in the trash like everything else. The fact that Afton had his own ending and boss battle. So why did they not just make Afton the main antagonist? It's not like Vanny had a boss battle. And it's not even to mention how at the end of the gameplay trailer, it shows Burn Trap's hand. So it's not even like it was a last-minute decision and was thrown in like Vanny. Steel Wool made the decision to bring Afton back when they were first creating the trailer. It actually makes no sense having both Vanny and Afton in the same game with the same role unless they're side by side fighting along with each other, like how it should have been because, Afton is controlling Vanessa in the first place. You can't have the main antagonist of the series and the new antagonist be in the same game with the same title, because why not just make one the antagonist and not the other? Or why would you bring Afton back and make a new one if they're both going to be swept to the side? I'm telling you, Gregory is the main antagonist of the game. Legit brutally destroys everyone with no problem whatsoever, and he's like 10 without being controlled by Afton or being related to him in some way. Unless, of course, I hope you know, the Moon Man shows up more than Vanny. Just let that soak in. The side character that barely showed up, the Moon Boy, showed up more than the main antagonist of the game. The big problem I have with that is that Afton wasn't the main antagonist and he had pretty much a full-blown boss fight. Meanwhile, Vanny was the main antagonist of the game and partially the main protagonist, and she still didn't get enough screen time. Legit, like when you go to upgrade Freddy, and when you finish upgrading Freddy, who's the one that comes to hunt you down? The Moon Man. Vanny doesn't chase after you upgrade Freddy. Vanny, Vanessa, whatever you want to call her. You expected her to be on this list because Vanny and Vanessa as a character had so much wasted potential. First of all, she was a new antagonist, which is wonderful since Afton is now dead and we need a new one. That's wonderful. New antagonist means new story to continue, but they brought Afton back because Funny Purple Man. And Malhair was controlling Vanny anyways, so it's not even like she's her own character. And not to mention the trailers making her sound like she had so much of a bigger part as a villain and a good guy. It would have been so cool to see Vanny being the main antagonist of the game and also help Gregory, because at the end there could have been an actual Vanny boss fight where she is revealed to be Vanessa and then Gregory has to battle her, and then after you beat Vanessa, then Afton can come back with his new voice actor, an actual good Afton fight, perhaps close to the fan-made one by Golden Diamond. Like, do you see how cool of an idea that sounds? And quite frankly, it would be so much better for the story because we could get good versions of the two antagonists, since we could get a double boss fight with both characters who had the title of antagonist. Glamrock Freddy. In my opinion, he was just an underused character. Considering Vanessa in the trailers sounded like she was supposed to help you, I think we can say Freddy was a last-minute decision, considering he was nowhere to be found in the trailers helping Gregory in any way. So let's start off with these unused voice lines from Possessed Freddy.
Where are you going? Come back. I thought we were friends. Superstar Gregory. Why do you hide?
These voice lines are from the Afton fight where Freddy, gets possessed. These voice lines make it sound like the boss was going to have a much bigger impact as an ending with Afton controlling Freddy. Freddy sounded like he was going to be so much better when he was possessed, because the only thing that happens in the actual game when Freddy gets possessed is that he just runs up to you and murders you. Like, he doesn't even say a voice line, he just gets possessed, then just start existing with purple eyes. These voice lines would have made Freddy, and quite frankly the Afton fight, a lot better, since it expands on the idea of the fight, giving more possibilities with Freddy's usage in that fight, instead of it just being walk over to Afton, burn him, go back to the bed. It would have been just a much better fight if Freddy also played a role in it. I would say Freddy was underutilized in this game because he was more of a story element than a character, and if Freddy had a huge part in a bigger Afton fight, the end of the game would be so much better. And maybe if they just used Freddy in more parts of the gameplay side rather than the story side of things, that would have made him a better character and just more polished overall. The ending of this game and the whole game in general just had so much potential to be so much better. From cut content to underused characters and way too many villains to count. This game had potential, but they cut so many corners and put in so many useless, pointless story elements, characters, just random things into the game, and then they tried to put band-aids over the cracks in the game, and it came out half-baked with band-aids and nails all over the place. The Ruin DLC is coming out sometime in July until it gets inevitably delayed, which we know is bound to happen. But other than that, the trailer looks all so much better than Security Breach was. But then again, Security Breach's trailers looked super good, and look what game we're talking about right now. I really just hope they take their time with this DLC. Don't cut corners, make too many unnecessary changes and cuts. And if they do that successfully, then Ruin will turn out great. Let's just hope Ruin is what Security Breach was meant to be.